I'm Richard Cartwright, and this is Golf Swing Analysis. How are you all doing? Hope all is well. Hopefully, it's looking like rumour has it that golf is going to be back possibly around just after they announce maybe the lockdown to be eased, hopefully next week sometime. So hopefully we can get back on those courses within a week. I know there's a few people that have already posted. I think it was one in New Zealand I saw posted they were already back on the golf course now. So please comment, send me anything you want about it. I've heard so many different opinions. People saying we should be back out. Some people saying no, it's absolutely no chance. We shouldn't be out there at all. Big controversies, and you know what? There are reasons for, there are reasons against. I can see why they're stopping us, but I can also see why they want us to make sure we're safe. That's the most important thing. Health beyond anything is the most important thing. So but yeah, feel free to comment, and I'd love to hear your opinions as well. So next up we've got Brad. Now Brad's just got back into the game last few years after a bit of a layoff, 26-year layoff I think he said. So so quite a long layoff as well. I know a few people do that with injury, kids, families and things like that. So no, it happens. Usually it's almost like riding a bike. You almost don't forget how to do it. People think, oh, I need a massive huge amount of refreshers, I need to practice my socks off. And usually a big layoff is not the worst thing you can do really for your golf. It's, as I say, it's akin to riding a bike. You almost don't forget how to swing a golf club. It's instinct, it's in you. So Brad's playing off about 9 at the moment, which is a great handicap as well. He's having a few problems with his contact, a few thins, few fats as well. So let's have a little look into his swing as well. But one thing before we start on the swing itself, and again, having seen a hell of a lot of videos over my fair amount of fair few years of teaching, it's important to know where the camera has to be placed. Okay, so two rules for me really. One, the camera has to be about hip height, just past hip height. Obviously depends on how tall you are, but let's say if you've got a 36 inside leg, just above hip height is absolutely spot on. Some say up to sternum. Anywhere between hip and sternum is absolutely fine. Definitely not on the ground. It's difficult to see difficult to see anything in two-dimensional video, but really difficult to see things in two-dimensional video when the camera's on the ground. And two, you, the golfer, have to be very much in the center of the shot. Very much in the center of the shot. V1 in particular as well, I tend to use quite a lot. In their app, they have a person, a sort of outline of where you need to be. So yeah, you the golfer, in the middle of the screen, the camera around about sort of hip height, anywhere sort of hip height up to about sternum height, belly button, let's say, for argument's sake, anywhere there is absolutely perfect. Let's take a closer look at Brad's swing then. So again, you know what, being a golfer who's obviously played quite a bit, especially a good few years or so ago, you expect a pretty good setup, pretty natural, instinctive setup, and this one is as well. Lovely spine angles, knees flexed nicely, arms hanging down nice and naturally. I think overall it's really good. Almost immediately though, what you do tend to see in Brad's swing is what I call very much a straight back takeaway. Okay, so he almost takes the club back in a straight line. Now the problem for me there is golf is not a straight line back sport. It's very much a rounded circular arc sport. Okay, so we've already got an issue here. It takes the club back really quite straight. How do we know that? Well, the club head is just on the outside of his hands at this point here, sort of halfway back, what we call P2 or position 2. So the club head's a bit on the outside. Not the worst thing in the world, but we'll see the consequence of that as we get to the top of the swing, in the fact that when Brad gets to the top, his hands are very high. His hands are almost above his head, just here. What does that mean? It does mean that sort of dreaded over the, generally, again, I'm talking a general rule of thumb, not every golfer does this. Before you hit me with that sort of Jim Furyk up in the air and then reroute it back, it takes a huge amount of talent and a lot of practice to do that. So his hands get very high up in the air, almost over his head, just very much over his in front of his right shoulder. And as a result, on the way down, his hand path goes very much outwards, very much out towards the ball. So you can just see as we come in gently here, the shaft is really quite vertical at this point here. Excuse me. So the shaft almost going through his neck here. And again, it's the camera angle is distorting it slightly. But very much the hands, you can see the hands going away from the body there. So he's coming down over the top. So he has to make a correction then on the way down to get back to the golf ball. And you can see just at this point here, just how far that club head is outside his hands. An ideal position here is to hit that sort of soft wee draw, is to get that club head at this point behind the hands, very much behind the hands. But it goes, his club, because of his takeaway, goes outside in front of his hand. So he's having to make a correction and swing that club leftwards to make contact with the ball. And again, because he's played golf for a number of years, he managed to time that really quite well. This is why he's got down to a good handicap. But it's not always going to work for him. It's going to be fairly inconsistent with the quality of the contact. Well, not as consistent as he'd like to be, because he has to make that correction on the way down. Again, you can see a little bit of a flip rotation here. The club head's well disappeared. A little bit of stand up on the way through. The hands and the wrist have rotated the club around just to try and save the face, save the sweet spot, trying to get back to that golf ball. And again, you know what? Again, he does it very well. Obviously plays off a very good handicap as well. But the exciting thing from my perspective for Brad here is if he just does one thing, i.e. getting that feeling that club is going around in a circle. If I get a golf club here, he's taking the club, he needs to take the club back around in the circle as opposed to straight back and straight through. Okay, if that was the case, if the shaft was upright, yeah, he could go straight back, straight through. Very Bryson DeChambeau. Bryson DeChambeau's got really upright clubs for that very reason. He's very much a straight back, straight through. He's one of the only guys out there that can do it. Very few do that. Majority of guys have roughly 61, 62 degrees of lie angle on their 6-iron, for example, and there's a rotation, excuse me, a bit more of a rotation, a circular arc, as opposed to a straight back, straight through. So Brad, what I want you to do, I want you to make sure that club's going around in a circle on the way back. Don't worry about anything else, just one thing for you. Just want you to make sure that club's going back around as opposed to straight back. And for any of you guys and gals out there tend to hit thins or fats or maybe the odd occasional pull or slicer, that's usually the first port of call I would see, that takeaway, whether it's straight back or whether it's around in the circle. But ideally we want to make that club go back around in a circle. Brad, hope this helps, and again, hope this helps many of you out there with the same sort of issues. Comment below, and please subscribe to the channel as always, and let me know how you get on. Thank you, and I'll speak to you soon.